There is a version of you that is calm under pressure, disciplined in thought, emotionally independent, physically grounded, and spiritually unshakable. But that version of you is buried under excuses, attachments, distractions, and an ego that refuses to let go. Buddhism does not whisper comforting lies. It delivers brutal truths. It tells you that no one is coming to rescue you, that your suffering is self-created, that your mind is undisciplined, and that your attachments are chains you willingly hold onto. Most people avoid these truths because they hurt. But pain is not the enemy, avoidance is. If you are ready to stop blaming, stop clinging, and stop running from yourself, then this video will not just inspire you. It will rebuild you completely, mind, body, and heart. 1. No one is responsible for your suffering except you. The Buddha taught that suffering is not created by the outside world, but by the way we cling to it. Events happen, people leave, plans fail, words hurt. These things are part of life. But suffering begins when the mind says, "This should not have happened," or "This must not change." You suffer not simply because someone walked away, but because you built your emotional stability on their presence. You suffer not because life shifts, but because you expected it to stay frozen in a form that made you comfortable. Pain is natural, but resistance to pain is what turns it into long-term suffering. This truth feels harsh because it removes the comfort of blaming others. It is easier to say, "They ruined me," or "Life is unfair," than to admit that we are holding on to anger, replaying memories, or feeding resentment. When you constantly relive what hurt you, you keep the wound open yourself. The external event may have lasted a moment, but your attachment to it can last for years. The powerful shift happens when you realize that your reactions are shaping your inner world. If your mind keeps telling the story, your heart keeps feeling the pain. But if you can create that suffering through your thoughts, you also have the ability to release it. This does not mean ignoring injustice or pretending pain does not exist. It means understanding that healing begins inside you, not in changing others. Rebuilding your mind starts when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "Why am I still holding on to this?" Responsibility is not self-blame. It is self-control. The moment you accept that your inner state is your responsibility, you stop being controlled by circumstances. You may not control what happens in life, but you always control how long you allow it to control you. 2. Your mind is undisciplined, and that is why you are exhausted. Most people believe they are tired because of work, responsibilities, or long days. But often the real exhaustion comes from an undisciplined mind. Your body may rest, but your thoughts do not. Even when you lie down at night, your mind replays conversations, imagines future problems, compares your life to others, and creates scenarios that may never even happen. This constant mental activity drains your energy more than physical labor ever could. The Buddha compared the untrained mind to a restless monkey jumping from branch to branch, never still, never satisfied. One moment you are thinking about the past, the next you are worrying about the future. Rarely are you fully present, and because of that, your nervous system never truly relaxes. You feel anxious without knowing why. You feel irritated without clear reason. You feel overwhelmed even when nothing urgent is happening. An undisciplined mind reacts to everything. A comment becomes an insult. A delay becomes a disaster. A small mistake becomes proof that you are not good enough. When your thoughts are not under your control, your emotions follow them blindly. And when your emotions are unstable, your entire life feels unstable. Rebuilding your mind means training it with intention. Meditation is not about becoming spiritual or escaping life. It is about learning to observe your thoughts without automatically believing them. When you sit quietly and watch your mind, you begin to see patterns. You notice how often you assume the worst. You notice how often you criticize yourself. And slowly, you create space between you and your thoughts. In that space, peace begins. When you realize that you are not your thoughts, you stop being controlled by them. A disciplined mind does not mean a silent mind. It means a mind that does not drag you into unnecessary suffering. The more you train it, the more energy you reclaim. And with that energy, you rebuild your focus, your clarity, and your inner strength. 3. Your body reflects your inner chaos. Many people try to fix their life only through the mind, but they forget that the body is always listening to what the mind is saying. The Buddha taught awareness of breath and posture because he understood something powerful. Your body is not separate from your thoughts. When your mind is chaotic, your body absorbs that chaos. When your thoughts are heavy, your shoulders tighten. When you live in constant worry, your chest feels compressed. When you carry anger for too long, it shows in your face, your voice, and your energy. Stress is not just a mental experience, it becomes physical. Anxiety disturbs sleep, overthinking weakens digestion, emotional pain drains physical strength. You may believe you are simply tired, but often you are mentally overloaded. Your nervous system is constantly in fight or flight mode because your mind keeps imagining threats, comparing your life, and replaying regrets. The body cannot heal when the mind refuses to rest. This truth is uncomfortable because it means you cannot rebuild yourself while neglecting your physical habits. You cannot expect mental clarity while feeding your body poorly. You cannot demand emotional stability while sleeping 4 hours a night. You cannot speak of discipline while avoiding movement and ignoring your health. The body and mind are partners. If one is weak, the other suffers. Buddhism emphasizes mindful breathing because the breath connects both worlds. When you slow your breath, your heart rate calms. When your heart rate calms, your thoughts slow down. Something as simple as sitting upright and breathing deeply can shift your entire emotional state. This is not mystical, it is practical awareness. The present moment lives in the body, not in your thoughts. Rebuilding your body means respecting it as the foundation of your inner peace. It means moving regularly, even when you do not feel motivated. It means eating in a way that fuels clarity instead of laziness. It means allowing yourself real rest instead of endless scrolling at night. Discipline in the body creates discipline in the mind. Strength in the body supports strength in the heart. When you treat your body carelessly, you silently communicate to yourself that you do not matter. But when you care for your body intentionally, you build self-respect. You begin to feel grounded instead of scattered. Your posture changes, your energy changes. Your confidence grows naturally, not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you feel stable within yourself. The brutal truth is this: you cannot carry a peaceful mind inside a neglected body. Your physical state reflects your internal state. When you rebuild your body with awareness, you create a strong container for your thoughts and emotions. And when the body is steady, the mind finds it easier to be steady too. 4. Attachment is the root of your emotional instability. The Buddha taught that attachment is the primary cause of suffering, yet most people misunderstand what attachment truly means. Attachment is not love. It is not care. It is not appreciation. Attachment is the belief that you cannot be okay without something or someone. It is the silent agreement you make in your mind that says, if this leaves, I fall apart. That belief is what creates emotional instability. You say you love someone, but often what you really mean is that you feel safe because they are there. You feel valuable because they give you attention. You feel secure because they respond quickly. And the moment their behavior changes, your emotional world begins to shake. You start overthinking. You start checking your phone repeatedly. You start imagining worst-case scenarios. This is not love. This is dependence disguised as love. Attachment creates fear. The more tightly you hold onto something, the more afraid you become of losing it. When your happiness depends on a person, you begin to monitor their actions. When your confidence depends on praise, you begin to seek constant approval. When your identity depends on success, you panic at failure. The problem is not the person, the praise, or the success. The problem is the inner belief that you need it to feel whole. This truth is brutal because it exposes how fragile your peace really is. If your mood changes based on someone's tone of voice, you are attached. If your self-worth collapses after criticism, you are attached. If your entire day is ruined because plans changed, you are attached. Emotional instability is not caused by events. It is caused by the meaning you assign to them and the dependence you build around them. Buddhism teaches detachment, but detachment is often misunderstood as coldness or indifference. In reality, detachment means loving without clinging. It means enjoying without depending. It means appreciating without demanding permanence. When you are detached, you can care deeply while remaining emotionally stable. You can love someone and still survive their absence. You can desire success without destroying yourself over failure. Rebuilding your heart means learning to sit alone without feeling incomplete. It means being able to experience silence without anxiety. It means realizing that your worth does not increase when someone chooses you, and it does not decrease when someone walks away. The more you rely on others to fill emotional gaps inside you, the more unstable you become. But when you learn to fill your own heart first, your relationships become healthier and lighter. The brutal truth is this: the more you cling, the more you suffer. The tighter you hold, the more anxious you feel. But when you loosen your grip, something powerful happens. You begin to feel calm. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to understand that your peace does not belong to anyone else. It belongs to you. And the moment you stop needing someone to complete you is the moment you become emotionally unshakable. 5. You are addicted to distraction, and it is slowly weakening you. One of the most uncomfortable truths you must face is that you are not as busy as you think. You are distracted. There is a difference. Being busy means you are building something meaningful. Being distracted means you are running from something uncomfortable. Most people today are not overwhelmed by responsibility. They are overwhelmed by constant stimulation. The phone is always in your hand. The notifications never stop. There is always something new to watch, scroll, or react to. And slowly, without realizing it, your ability to sit still disappears. The Buddha valued silence not because he wanted people to escape the world, but because silence reveals the world inside you. When there is no noise, no screen, no music, no conversation, you begin to hear your own thoughts clearly. And that is exactly what most people are trying to avoid. Distraction is often a shield against self-awareness. If you keep yourself entertained, you do not have to confront your fears. If you stay constantly stimulated, you do not have to face your insecurities. If you keep scrolling, you do not have to ask yourself why you feel empty. This addiction to distraction weakens your mind. It reduces your attention span. It makes you impatient. It trains your brain to expect constant reward. When something requires effort, you quickly lose interest. When something feels slightly uncomfortable, you immediately look for an escape. Over time, your tolerance for discomfort shrinks, and without discomfort, growth becomes impossible. Your heart also suffers from distraction. When you are always stimulated, you lose depth. Conversations become shallow, reflection disappears, gratitude weakens. You stop noticing small moments because your attention is fragmented. You may be physically present with people, but mentally you are somewhere else. This creates a subtle sense of disconnection that slowly drains meaning from your life. The brutal part of this truth is realizing that you are choosing this pattern daily. No one is forcing you to check your phone every few minutes. No one is forcing you to avoid silence. Each time you choose distraction over awareness, you strengthen that habit, and habits shape your future more than intentions ever will. Rebuilding yourself requires reclaiming your focus. It requires intentional silence. It requires moments where you sit without stimulation and simply observe your inner world. At first, this feels uncomfortable. You may feel restless, you may feel bored, you may feel anxious, but that discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that you are finally facing yourself. When you reduce distraction, your mind becomes sharper, your thoughts become clearer, your emotions become more stable. You start responding instead of reacting. You become less controlled by impulses and more guided by intention. Silence becomes strength instead of something to fear. The truth is simple but powerful. You cannot rebuild your mind, body, and heart while constantly escaping them. If you want depth, you must tolerate stillness. If you want discipline, you must reduce impulsive habits. If you want peace, you must create space for it. The less you run from yourself, the stronger you become. 6. Your ego is the real enemy you refuse to see. Most people believe their biggest enemy is outside of them. They blame difficult people, unfair situations, betrayal, criticism, or lack of opportunity. But Buddhism points to something far more uncomfortable. The real enemy is not outside. It is the ego inside you. The ego is the voice that constantly says, "I must be right. I must be respected. I must be admired. I must not look weak." It is the part of you that feels attacked when someone disagrees, the part that burns when someone ignores you, the part that feels superior when someone fails. The ego is fragile. It pretends to be strong, but it reacts to everything. A simple comment becomes an insult. A small mistake becomes humiliation. A correction feels like an attack. Because the ego is obsessed with protecting an image. It wants to protect the identity you have built in your mind. It wants to defend the version of yourself that you present to the world. And when anything threatens that image, it triggers anger, jealousy, insecurity, or resentment. The Buddha taught the concept of non-self, meaning that the identity you cling to is not solid or permanent. Your personality, your status, your achievements, your reputation, all of these are temporary constructions, but the ego treats them as sacred. It says, "This is who I am, and I must defend it." That constant defense creates tension. It creates arguments. It creates emotional instability. It makes you react quickly instead of responding wisely. The brutal truth is that many of your conflicts are ego-driven. You do not argue because you seek truth. You argue because you want to win. You do not feel hurt because something was truly damaging. You feel hurt because your pride was touched. You do not feel anxious because danger is present. You feel anxious because your image might be questioned. When your identity is built on fragile foundations, every small challenge feels like a threat. Rebuilding your mind requires observing the ego instead of obeying it. When someone criticizes you, instead of reacting immediately, ask yourself whether your ego is speaking. When you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause and question why validation feels necessary. When you feel offended, examine whether your pride is demanding protection. This awareness alone weakens the ego's control. Humility is not weakness. It is stability. When you are not obsessed with being right, you become calmer. When you are not desperate for approval, you become freer. When you are not trying to impress others, you conserve energy. A person ruled by ego is constantly tense. A person who has loosened their ego is grounded and steady. This does not mean you erase your personality or stop having goals. It means you stop building your worth on external recognition. It means you stop allowing pride to control your reactions. The more attached you are to your image, the more unstable you become. But when you accept that your identity is flexible and constantly evolving, you become adaptable and strong. The ego wants applause. The soul wants peace. The ego wants to dominate. The soul wants understanding. The ego reacts quickly. Wisdom moves slowly. When you begin choosing awareness over pride, something powerful happens. You argue less. You feel less threatened. You forgive more easily. You stop needing to prove yourself in every conversation. The brutal truth is this: until you master your ego, you will always be emotionally vulnerable. Anyone who challenges your image will control your mood. But once you reduce the ego's grip, your peace no longer depends on being praised, feared, or admired. And that is true strength. 6. Your ego is the real enemy you refuse to confront. One of the most brutal Buddhist truths is that your greatest enemy is not your circumstances, not your rivals, not your past, and not the people who hurt you. Your greatest enemy is the ego you protect every single day. The ego is not confidence. It is not healthy self-respect. It is the fragile identity you constantly defend. It is the voice that whispers, "How dare they speak to me like that?" It is the tension you feel when someone succeeds in an area where you feel insecure. It is the discomfort you experience when you are ignored, corrected, or not praised. The ego is obsessed with image. It wants to appear strong, intelligent, admired, and superior. It wants control. It wants validation. It wants validation. It wants to win every argument. It wants to avoid looking weak at all costs. And because of this, it reacts quickly and emotionally. A small disagreement becomes a personal attack. A simple mistake becomes humiliation. Constructive criticism feels like rejection. The ego cannot separate correction from insult because it sees everything as a threat to identity. Buddhism teaches the concept of anatta, or non-self, which means that the self you cling to is not fixed or permanent. Your personality, status, beliefs, achievements, and reputation are constantly changing. They are fluid, yet the ego acts as if this identity is solid and must be protected at all times. This constant protection creates stress. You feel the need to prove yourself. You feel the need to defend your opinions. You feel the urge to respond immediately when challenged. And this constant defense drains your energy. Many of your emotional reactions are ego-driven, even if you do not realize it. When you feel jealous, it is often because your ego compares. When you feel offended, it is often because your pride feels attacked. When you feel anxious before speaking, it is often because your ego fears judgment. When you hold grudges, it is often because your ego refuses to let go of being right. These reactions feel natural, but they are rooted in attachment to identity. The brutal part of this truth is accepting that you are not always reacting to reality. You are reacting to how reality affects your image. Someone may correct you to help you improve, but your ego hears disrespect. Someone may outgrow you, but your ego hears abandonment. Someone may simply be busy, but your ego hears rejection. The ego interprets neutral events as personal threats because it is constantly scanning for danger to its identity. Rebuilding your mind requires observing this ego instead of blindly following it. When you feel anger rising, pause and ask whether your ego is defending something fragile. When you feel the urge to argue, ask whether you are seeking truth or simply trying to win. When you feel hurt, ask whether your heart is truly wounded or whether your pride is reacting. This awareness alone creates space between you and your ego. Humility becomes powerful in this process. Humility does not mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less often. It means being willing to learn instead of always proving. It means being comfortable saying, "I was wrong." It means accepting that you do not need to dominate every room to be valuable. The more secure you are internally, the less you need external validation. The ego thrives on comparison. It constantly measures your life against others. It asks whether you are ahead or behind. It asks whether you are admired or ignored. But this comparison creates endless dissatisfaction. There will always be someone richer, smarter, stronger, or more praised. If your worth depends on being above others, you will live in constant anxiety. But when you detach from comparison, your peace stabilizes. True strength is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not seek applause. True strength is quiet self-control. It is the ability to stay calm when insulted. It is the ability to listen without interrupting. It is the ability to walk away from an argument you could easily win. It is the confidence that does not need to announce itself. The brutal truth is that as long as your ego controls you, your peace will remain fragile. Anyone who challenges your image will control your mood. Anyone who withholds praise will control your confidence. Anyone who disagrees with you will trigger defensiveness. But when you loosen your attachment to identity, something liberating happens. You become flexible, you become grounded, you become harder to disturb. Rebuilding your mind, body, and heart requires shrinking the ego and strengthening awareness. The ego wants applause. Awareness wants clarity. The ego wants dominance. Awareness wants understanding. The ego reacts. Awareness responds. When you consistently choose awareness over pride, you free yourself from unnecessary battles. And the moment you stop needing to protect an image is the moment you begin living with true inner stability. 7. Change is not optional. It is the law of your life. One of the most brutal truths in Buddhism is that nothing in your life is permanent. Everything you love will change. Your body will age. Your energy will fluctuate. Your relationships will evolve. People who once felt close may drift away. Success will rise and fall. Even your beliefs and personality will transform over time. Yet most of your suffering comes from pretending this is not true. You try to freeze moments. You try to hold on to roles. You try to preserve feelings exactly as they are. But life does not stay still for anyone. The Buddha taught the principle of impermanence because he understood that resisting change is the root of deep emotional pain. When something beautiful happens, you want it to last forever. When something painful happens, you want it to end immediately. In both cases, you are fighting reality. The mind constantly says, "This should not be happening," or "This must never end." And that resistance creates anxiety, frustration, and fear. Think about how much tension comes from trying to control outcomes. You worry about the future because you want certainty. You replay the past because you want different results. You cling to people because you fear losing them. But the truth is that change will happen whether you accept it or not. The only choice you have is whether you flow with it or break against it. This truth is brutal because it removes the illusion of control. You cannot stop time. You cannot prevent aging. You cannot force someone to stay the same. You cannot guarantee that circumstances will remain comfortable. And when you deeply understand this, it can feel unsettling. But within that discomfort is freedom. Rebuilding your heart means learning to appreciate without clinging. It means loving someone fully while understanding that nothing is guaranteed. It means enjoying success without building your identity on it. It means accepting that endings are not failures, but natural transitions. When you stop demanding permanence, you start experiencing life more fully. Change also applies to you. The person you are today is not the person you were 5 years ago. Your fears, strengths, weaknesses, and dreams have shifted. Growth requires letting old versions of yourself die. Sometimes you suffer not because life changed, but because you are attached to who you used to be. You cling to past identities, past mistakes, past roles, and this prevents you from evolving. Impermanence is not a curse. It is an opportunity. Because things change, pain does not last forever. Because things change, mistakes do not define you permanently. Because things change, you are capable of rebuilding yourself. If life were fixed, growth would be impossible. The same force that takes things away also brings new possibilities. True strength is not rigidity, it is adaptability. A rigid mind breaks under pressure. A flexible mind bends and survives. When challenges come, instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" When endings occur, instead of collapsing, you reflect and realign. When uncertainty appears, instead of panicking, you ground yourself in the present moment. The brutal truth is this: life will continue changing whether you are ready or not. The more you resist it, the more you suffer. But when you accept change as natural, your fear decreases. You stop clinging so tightly. You stop building your happiness on things that are temporary. You begin building it on awareness, resilience, and inner stability. And when you truly accept impermanence, something powerful happens. You become less afraid. You become less desperate. You become less shaken by loss. You start living more consciously because you understand that every moment is passing. That understanding does not make you cold. It makes you grateful. It makes you present. It makes you strong in a way that cannot be easily broken. That is how you rebuild your mind, body, and heart. By accepting that change is not your enemy, it is your teacher. 8. You want growth, but you avoid discomfort. One of the most brutal truths you must face is that you say you want growth, but you avoid the very things that create it. You want confidence, but you avoid situations that make you feel uncertain. You want discipline, but you resist structure. You want emotional strength, but you escape difficult conversations. You want peace, but you refuse to sit with your pain long enough to understand it. Growth is uncomfortable. The Buddha never promised comfort. He promised awakening. And awakening begins when you stop running from discomfort and start observing it. Most people structure their lives around avoiding discomfort. They avoid silence because it exposes anxiety. They avoid responsibility because it exposes weakness. They avoid challenge because it exposes insecurity. And in avoiding these things, they also avoid transformation. Discomfort is not a punishment, it is a signal. When you feel uncomfortable, it often means you are standing at the edge of expansion. The body tightens, the mind resists, the ego complains. But beyond that discomfort is development. If you always choose what feels easy, your life remains small. If you always choose what feels familiar, your identity remains limited. Think about physical strength. Muscles grow only when they are stressed beyond comfort. Without resistance, there is no development. The same principle applies to the mind and heart. Emotional resilience is built by facing rejection, not by avoiding it. Mental clarity is built by confronting confusion, not by distracting yourself from it. Self-respect is built by keeping promises to yourself, especially when it feels inconvenient. The brutal truth is that many of your struggles continue because you avoid the lessons inside them. You leave situations too early. You distract yourself too quickly. You seek comfort too often. Instead of asking, "How do I escape this discomfort?" ask, "What is this discomfort trying to teach me?" Sometimes it teaches patience. Sometimes it teaches boundaries. Sometimes it teaches discipline, sometimes it exposes habits that need to change. Buddhism teaches mindful observation of suffering, not immediate escape from it. When you sit with discomfort without reacting impulsively, you gain insight. You begin to see patterns in your reactions. You notice how quickly you want relief. You notice how your ego tries to protect you from embarrassment or failure. In that awareness, growth begins. Rebuilding your mind requires tolerating mental discomfort. This means studying when you feel lazy. This means practicing when you feel unmotivated. This means staying consistent even when results are not immediate. Rebuilding your body requires tolerating physical discomfort. This means training when you would rather rest. This means choosing discipline over impulse. Rebuilding your heart requires tolerating emotional discomfort. This means having honest conversations. This means letting go when it hurts. This means sitting with loneliness without immediately filling it with noise. Comfort feels safe, but too much comfort weakens you. Discomfort feels challenging, but it strengthens you. The person you want to become lives on the other side of habits you are avoiding. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you reinforce inner strength. Every time you stay present instead of escaping, you expand your capacity. The brutal truth is this: if you keep choosing comfort, you will keep repeating the same patterns. But if you begin choosing disciplined discomfort, your entire life starts shifting. You become more resilient, you become more confident, you become more grounded, not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. Growth does not require dramatic change overnight. It requires consistent willingness to face what is uncomfortable. The moment you stop seeing discomfort as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher, is the moment you begin rebuilding yourself completely. 9. No one is coming to save you, and that is your greatest freedom. This is perhaps the most brutal truth of all. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is coming to suddenly fix your habits, repair your mindset, discipline your body, or heal your emotional wounds. No one is going to arrive at the perfect moment with the exact words that transform your life overnight. And once you fully accept this, something inside you shifts. At first, it may feel heavy. It may feel lonely. It may even feel unfair. But beneath that discomfort lies immense freedom. From a young age, many people are conditioned to wait. They wait for the right opportunity. They wait for the right partner. They wait for the right motivation. They wait for someone to recognize their potential. They wait for circumstances to improve before taking action. This waiting creates a silent dependency. You begin to believe that your progress depends on something outside of you. You tell yourself that once the environment changes, you will change. Once someone supports you, you will grow. Once you feel inspired, you will act. Buddhism dismantles this illusion completely. The Buddha did not say, "Wait for the world to align." He said, "Awaken." Awakening is an internal decision. It is the moment you realize that your life is shaped more by your daily choices than by external rescue. The truth is that you can spend years waiting for support, validation, or perfect timing, and nothing meaningful will shift. But the moment you decide to take responsibility for your growth, everything begins moving. This truth feels brutal because it removes excuses. You cannot blame your lack of discipline on lack of encouragement. You cannot blame your stagnation on lack of opportunity forever. Yes, circumstances influence you, but they do not define your direction. The harsh but liberating reality is that your habits, your reactions, your consistency, and your mindset are within your control. The longer you wait for someone else to fix you, the longer you delay your own rebuilding. Rebuilding your mind begins when you stop expecting someone to motivate you and start creating structure for yourself. Motivation is unstable. It comes and goes based on emotion. Structure is reliable. It remains even when you feel tired, discouraged, or uninspired. The disciplined person does not wait to feel ready. They act, and readiness follows. Rebuilding your body requires the same acceptance. No one can exercise for you. No one can rest for you. No one can choose healthier habits on your behalf. You can listen to advice. You can watch inspiration. But the action is always yours. When you accept that no one will carry your physical discipline for you, you stop negotiating with laziness. You begin treating your health as your responsibility, not as a future goal dependent on ideal conditions. Rebuilding your heart is perhaps the most challenging part. Many people wait for someone else to heal them emotionally. They believe a relationship will fix their loneliness. They believe external love will erase internal insecurity. But if your heart is wounded and you refuse to face it, no relationship will save you. You will carry the same patterns into every connection. Healing is an internal process. It requires self-reflection, honesty, forgiveness, and emotional maturity. No one can complete that work for you. The powerful shift happens when you stop seeing this truth as abandonment and start seeing it as empowerment. If no one is coming to save you, that means you are not powerless. That means you are not dependent on someone else's timing. That means your progress is not delayed by someone else's approval. It means your future is shaped by your decisions starting today. There is something incredibly stabilizing about accepting this. You stop waiting. You stop hoping someone will notice your struggle and intervene. You stop fantasizing about a future version of yourself that magically appears. Instead, you begin building that version through small, consistent actions. You read when you feel lazy. You train when you feel unmotivated. You meditate when your mind feels chaotic. You speak calmly when your ego wants to react. These small decisions compound into transformation. The brutal truth is that waiting feels safer than acting. When you wait, you avoid the risk of failure. When you act, you expose yourself to mistakes. But growth only happens in action. You cannot think your way into a new life. You must behave your way into it. Every disciplined action reinforces self-respect. Every promise kept to yourself strengthens identity. Slowly, you begin trusting yourself more than you trust circumstances. Buddhism teaches self-reliance not as isolation, but as inner stability. You can still receive help. You can still love others. You can still appreciate support. But you no longer depend on rescue. Your foundation becomes internal. You become steady even when external support fluctuates. You become proactive instead of reactive. You move forward not because everything is perfect, but because you refuse to remain stagnant. The moment you accept that no one is coming to save you is the moment you stop being passive in your own life. You stop drifting. You stop blaming. You stop postponing growth. You begin living intentionally. You wake up earlier. You choose discipline over comfort. You reflect instead of distracting yourself. You confront patterns instead of repeating them. And slowly, the version of you that once felt distant becomes real. This truth is brutal because it demands courage. But it is also beautiful because it gives you full ownership of your transformation. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are becoming one through consistent effort. You are not hoping for a savior. You are becoming your own strength. Rebuilding your mind, body, and heart requires this final understanding. No one can walk the path for you, but once you start walking it, you realize you were never as helpless as you believed. The power was always within your daily choices. And when you fully accept that responsibility, you stop waiting for rescue and start rebuilding yourself completely. 10. Your time is limited and you are wasting it on things that do not matter. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths you can face. Your life is not endless. Your time is not guaranteed. Every day that passes is one day you will never recover. Yet most people live as if they have unlimited tomorrows. They postpone discipline. They delay difficult conversations. They ignore their health. They waste hours on meaningless distractions. They tell themselves they will start soon, but soon quietly becomes years. Buddhism teaches constant awareness of impermanence, including the impermanence of your own life. The Buddha encouraged reflection on mortality not to create fear, but to create urgency and clarity. When you deeply understand that your time is limited, your priorities shift. Petty arguments lose importance. Endless scrolling feels empty. Holding grudges feels foolish. Procrastination feels dangerous. The brutal truth is that you are spending your most valuable resource on things that will not matter in the long run. You give energy to gossip. You replay old insults. You obsess over how others perceive you. You compare your life to people you barely know. You allow small inconveniences to steal your emotional stability. Meanwhile, your days continue moving forward without pause. Time does not slow down because you are confused. It does not wait because you are afraid. It does not extend itself because you are comfortable. It moves steadily, whether you are intentional or distracted. The question is not whether time will pass. The question is how consciously you will use it. Rebuilding your mind requires realizing that mental clutter is a waste of time. Every hour spent replaying an argument is an hour not spent growing. Every day spent doubting yourself is a day not spent building skill. Every moment consumed by resentment is a moment taken from your peace. You may think these habits are harmless, but over years, they shape your identity. Rebuilding your body requires the same urgency. Many people treat their health casually, assuming there will always be time to fix it later. They delay exercise. They ignore sleep. They neglect nourishment. But the body remembers neglect. Energy declines slowly at first, then suddenly. The habits you practice daily compound, either strengthening you or weakening you. Time amplifies whatever you repeat. Rebuilding your heart demands awareness of how you spend emotional energy. If you constantly invest in people who drain you, time will reveal the cost. If you avoid vulnerability because it feels uncomfortable, years may pass without meaningful connection. If you refuse to forgive, you carry emotional weight far longer than necessary. Time magnifies both wisdom and avoidance. The brutal part of this truth is recognizing how much time has already passed. There are conversations you meant to have, skills you meant to develop, books you meant to read, habits you meant to change. But reflection should not create regret. It should create clarity. The past cannot be reclaimed, but the present is still available. Buddhism does not teach obsession with productivity. It teaches conscious living. There is a difference. Conscious living means being fully present in what you choose to do. It means choosing deliberately instead of drifting automatically. It means recognizing that every small decision is shaping your direction. When you understand that time is limited, you stop tolerating nonsense. You stop engaging in arguments that lead nowhere. You stop chasing validation from people who do not value you. You stop delaying difficult but necessary changes. You begin asking yourself more powerful questions. Is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? Will this matter in 5 years? This awareness does not make you cold. It makes you focused. It makes you intentional. It strengthens boundaries. It deepens gratitude. When you know something is temporary, you appreciate it more. When you know moments cannot be repeated, you pay attention. You listen more carefully. You speak more thoughtfully. You move more deliberately. The brutal truth is this: most people wake up too late. They realize the value of time when options are limited. They realize the importance of health after neglect. They realize the depth of love after loss. But you do not have to wait for regret to teach you what awareness can teach you now. Rebuilding your life requires respecting time as sacred. This does not mean rushing. It means not wasting. It means aligning your daily actions with your deeper values. It means choosing growth over distraction. It means choosing discipline over impulse. It means choosing peace over petty conflict. When you treat time casually, your life becomes accidental. When you treat time seriously, your life becomes intentional. The difference between those two paths is enormous over years. Small daily improvements compound into strength. Small daily neglect compounds into weakness. You do not control how long you will live. You do control how you live today. And today is powerful. Today is where habits are formed. Today is where discipline begins. Today is where forgiveness happens. Today is where distractions are reduced. Today is where awareness is practiced. The final brutal truth is this: if you continue postponing growth, life will move forward without waiting for you. But if you begin honoring your time now, even in small ways, your entire direction shifts. You become sharper, stronger, more focused, more grounded. You stop drifting and start building. And when you respect your limited time, you naturally rebuild your mind with clarity, your body with discipline, and your heart with intention. These truths are not gentle. They are not designed to comfort your ego or entertain your emotions. They are meant to wake you up. Buddhism was never about temporary motivation. It was about deep awareness. And awareness is uncomfortable because it removes illusions, it removes excuses, it removes the stories you tell yourself to avoid responsibility. You have now faced 10 brutal truths. You have seen that your suffering is created by attachment. You have understood that your undisciplined mind drains your energy. You have realized that your body reflects your inner chaos. You have seen how attachment destabilizes your heart. You have confronted your addiction to distraction. You have exposed the ego as your hidden enemy. You have accepted that change is inevitable. You have recognized that growth requires discomfort. You have understood that no one is coming to save you. And finally, you have faced the reality that your time is limited. None of these truths are meant to make you feel small. They are meant to make you powerful, because once illusions fall away, clarity begins, and clarity is strength. Rebuilding yourself is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing what weakens you. It is about removing blame, removing ego, removing dependency, removing distraction, removing procrastination. When you remove what is unnecessary, what remains is strength. Your mind becomes sharper because it is no longer consumed by unnecessary thoughts. Your body becomes stronger because it is no longer neglected. Your heart becomes stable because it no longer depends on fragile attachments. You stop reacting to everything. You stop chasing approval. You stop waiting for rescue. You start living intentionally. This is not an overnight transformation. Buddhism teaches steady awareness, not dramatic bursts of motivation. Every day you choose discipline over impulse, you rebuild. Every day you choose awareness over ego, you rebuild. Every day you choose responsibility over blame, you rebuild. These small decisions shape a powerful identity over time. The brutal truth is that if you do not rebuild yourself consciously, life will rebuild you through pain. Hardship will force awareness. Loss will force detachment. Failure will force humility. Time will force urgency. But wisdom allows you to begin before suffering becomes extreme. You are not powerless. You are not trapped. You are not defined by your past. The path to rebuilding your mind, body, and heart begins the moment you decide to walk it. And the moment you take full responsibility for your inner world is the moment your transformation truly begins.